Hello everyone, my name is Burak Güzel and this is day number 10 in CodeIgniter From Scratch video tutorial series. And today's subject is the calendar library, and we're also going to be using the database class and also some jQuery Ajax. Our main focus will be the calendar class. So let's get started. I'm going to first preview what it's going to look like at the end, and this is it. So it's going to be a generated a styled calendar page, and there's going to be links on the sides that go to the next and previous months. And also, if you click any day, you can add some text um, to individual days, and they will be posted via Ajax to the database and will be fetched and displayed within the calendar. So let's get started by downloading the CodeIgniter from codeigniter.com and extract the files and open it in your editor. And I also added here the htaccess file for getting rid of index.php from my URLs. This is just optional. I also would like to take the application folder out and quickly set up my configuration options. I'm going to auto load the database class, and I'm going to auto load the URL helper. Also, I'm going to go ahead and configure my base URL, which will be localhost CI series, and I don't need index.php in my URLs. Also, gotta go to database.php to set up the username, password, etc. for the database, and I set up a database named CI series on my local server. I'm going to be using that. So we can close all of this and get started with coding. Let's create a controller to work with. I'm going to call this mycal. And I'm going to put a method named display in it. And this is going to be loaded with this URL. And it's empty right now, so let's output some basic calendar. We're going to load the calendar class by going this load library and calendar. And now that we loaded it, we can call its methods. And the method for generating the calendar is generate. This will return the HTML output, so we have to echo it out like this. So as you can see, we just got a calendar on our screen, and if you look at the source code, you can see that it's a table with rows and cells. These are generated from a default template. We can modify it later on. So this is the current month. We didn't pass any values, so it's by default loading the current month and highlighting the current day. So let's see what we can pass to this library to make it do some different things. For example, let's put an array here with some configuration options, and this array is going to be passed to the load library call. So for example, one of the options we can do is changing the start day from Sunday to Monday. Some people prefer to have Monday as the first day in the calendar. So when you refresh, the Sunday changes to Monday. And for example, another option will be this will require two settings. Show next prev will set this will enable the links that will go to this on top here to the sides for going between different months. And once it's enabled, we also need to set a base URL for the URLs of individual months. So I'm going to be using the space URL helper function and adding the current controller's name at the end. So if I look at the generated page, you'll see the links. When I click the next one, it puts the year and month at the end, and if we go previous one, it will put 01. So these are supposed to load January or March, but we're still loading February because we need to tell the calendar library to load that specific month. So since these are passed at the end of the URL, we can fetch them as parameters in our controller method here. So they will come as year and month into this controller method. And we can pass them to the generate method call. When we refresh, you'll see that March is loaded when this URL is loaded. So the next link will keep loading the next month. Now, there's a problem with this because if I get rid of that part, I will get an error because these parameters need to be made optional so that if they don't exist, we don't get an error. So now if there is nothing, it will load the current month as default, and we can still load the other months. So another major configuration option will be the template, but I'm going to get to that in a bit. First, I would like to generate a model class and also a view because it's going to be a little more organized when we do things that way instead of putting everything in a controller. Let's create a model named mycal model, and in this class we're going to do most of the work. So for example, instead of putting it all here, I'm going to load this new model and I'm going to call a method named generate with the year and month. So this generate is different than the calendars generate. This is going to be a method inside the model, and let's create that. And let's push this code from here into the model, and instead of echoing, I'm going to return the output HTML into, and I'm going to capture it into a variable right here. So now I have this, I can pass it along to a view. So if we're going to have a view named, there's a typo here, we're going to have a view named mycal and pass that data to it. I'm going to need to create that view first. Let's call this my calendar and output this calendar. So all I've done is just reorganizing some code. I should expect everything to look the same. And yes, it does. So let's start doing some more. Like I'm going to show you another option of the calendar class, which is passing some content to be inside the calendar. For example, let's say on the 15th day of the month there is some data. And how we're going to do that is have another array, and the array keys are going to be those days. So for example, 15 will have foo, and let's say 17 will have bar, and that will be passed into the generate function um, as the third parameter. So if I refresh this, you'll see that 15 and 17 got some links, and in the links you'll see foo and bar, but they're not behaving like anything we expect. This is just generating some links. I would like to place the content inside these table cells instead of making them into links, and we can change this behavior by editing the template, and I'm going to show that actually right now. So before actually I'm going to move some of this into a constructor method. As you remember, you have to call the parent constructor also. Going to move this config out of this. I'm going to make this config a class member. This config. Okay, so the template will be another part of this configuration. So it will be named template. And how do we know what to put into this template? It's easy. We just go to CodeIgniter website and go to user guide, find the calendar class, and at the bottom of this page you'll see there's a default template to use. We can just take this, copy paste this, and then make our changes on it. That will make our life much easier. I'm going to indent this a little bit right there. So there are sections inside this template. They're like line by line. The first line is table open, and this is just what goes on top, and then there's a heading row start, which is just the tr tag. This whole section is about heading row, so it's the tr and each individual cell, so which is th, and then closing tr, and that's the row you see here with the links and the name of the month, etc. And the next part will be about the weeks, and these tr td, this stuff is also for the week row, which is just these names of the days of the week. And then we get into the rest of the cells. So just the opening of the cell rows and the cell table cells. So there are different kinds of tables, different kinds of cells in this calendar. Some of them have content, some of them don't. Here you can see that the content is put into an array. That's why we were getting arrays for those days. We're going to change this, and this one is for a row, a cell with the content, and this one if it's the today's date. And here's one with no content, and here's one of the same, but if it's today's date. And in those ones, they add a class named highlight. We can also utilize this to work with the CSS a little bit. And then there's a closing tags, and then finally the table close tag. So let's start making some changes to this. Actually, this will make things look a little different. I put this template here and refresh the page. You'll see the padding is gone because there's a slight difference between the default template and this one, I guess. They added the cell padding 0, but that's not a problem. So let's put some let's put a class into this table first. And in the HTML, I'm going to put a style tag. And in the calendar table, I would like to have a different font, like Arial, and set the size. And I would like to take that table and center it. Also, if there's going to be borders, I want to collapse them. Anyway, so making these changes will reflect right away. Now we're referencing this calendar class, CSS calendar class. Here I added that into the template. As you can see, it's working. But it looks a little weird without the padding. So let's just add some padding. Actually, I'm going to do that after I do the day cells. Anyway, so as I said, the content is going to the URL, and we don't want that. So let's just take it out of here, and I would like to put these in divs. For example, the day number will be in its own div, and the content will be in its own div, and this will be actually output as the text content instead of put into a link. So when we do something like this, you'll see that foo and bar are outputted, but it looks a little weird. I'm going to make the cells bigger. So let's put some classes into these divs. So this should be like a day num. This should be content, and I'm going to use the same thing for today. But this one will have the highlight class also. And the ones with no content should also have the div tag around the day, and this should have the highlight. Okay, it's already like that. Oh wait. Okay, now this will have day num and highlight, and let's put some styling on those. Calendar days. I'm sorry, this will be the row will be a class days. So days td elder a little bigger with some padding and with a border. And the vertical alignment I believe is middle by default, so I want to set it to top, and I also want to have a background color. Okay. How's that? Oh, this should be PX. Now, as you can see, the table cells got bigger and nice background, and now there's room for that data, and they are in different divs, which is looking much nicer. Let's add a little bit of effect here, like a hover effect for changing the background color. Also, the highlighted days, the current day should be bold. Okay. All right. So this I changed the color of the current date to blue, and I added this mouse over effect on the table cells. Now let's start dealing with the actual data. So the way I passed the data was just this dummy data in this array. Um, Now let's make this thing database interactive. For that, I'm going to, for example, create a function for like getting the calendar data from the database. So based on a given year and month, which each specific calendar is based on year and month, I'm going to fetch the contents of those days. So I can call that function get calendar data with year and month, just like that. Stick it into that array and pass it to the generate function. So this needs to return this array we're looking for, and that needs to have that specific structure where each array index is the day number. So I assume you're already somewhat familiar with the database class from the previous episodes, but here we're going to do a basic select query using the database class. So I'm going to select the date and data. I'm chaining the functions, which is convenient from the calendar table, and I'm going to use the like function because I am given a year and a month, and the day, I want all the days within that month. So I'm going to use like. So this is going to look for a string like this. If it's 2010 February, it's going to look something like this. Well, I have to also pass a third parameter saying after, so that the percent sign comes after. So in SQL, it's going to be kind of like this: date like 2010-2%. That's how I'm going to fetch all the days within a given month. And to get this, I call the get method. And I'm going to have that a cal data array and populate this array and return it. So to populate this array, I gotta set up a loop. I'm going to set up a for each loop, and I'm going to go through this query's results, fetch the rows, and these row objects, I have the column named the data from the database. We named the data, and I'm going to assign that to the cal date data array. It's going to, the array index will be the day. So I have the date as it is from the database, but I want to have just the day part. So I cannot do, if I do this, I'm going to get the full date, and I need a substring of this. And the substring will need the 8,2 position, because a date looks like this: 2010 02 22. So if I want the 22 part, this is the position number 8 within the string, and I want 2 characters. That's why I did that. So we do this, and this should get the data. So I'm getting this from a table named calendar. So where is this table? Well, I already created this, but I'm going to show you how to do that again. Let's just drop. So create that table named calendar with 2 fields, and the first field is going to be the date and data. So I don't need an ID field. I'm going to make this a primary index. It's unique, so there's only one date, one row per date, and the data will be just a text. So if I have, let's say on 2010-02-24, if I have testing this as my data, now in my code, this method should select all this and return it in an array which gets passed to the generate function right here. So if I refresh, yes, the testing this on February 2010 24th is right here. So we need to also have the method for inserting this data from the browser instead of adding it manually. So let's create a method named I'm going to call it add calendar data. So this is going to take the date as a parameter and also the data for that date as a parameter, and it's going to insert. So using the database class, we can insert calendar to the calendar table and pass the data into this second parameter as an array. But there's a slight problem with doing this, because if the value already exists, it's going to give us a database error. Let's demonstrate that. Add calendar data. So for example, before generating the calendar, I'm going to call this method, this add calendar data. This is just a test. It's not going to stay here. So the date will be, let's say, 2010, February 19th, and the data is more test. So refresh. So more test was inserted, and then we got it fetched again. But if I refresh, try inserting it again, it's going to give this fatal error. So how do we avoid this? I'm going to have to check that the row doesn't exist. If it does exist, then I'm going to have to do an update query instead of this insert query. So first we need to check this in a conditional statement, and if that is true, we do an update. If that's not true, then we can do our little insert here. So, and what's the condition for this? It's going to be a select query. So again, using the database class, I'm going to select, let's just select a date field from the calendar table. I'm going to keep chaining where, so we're going to see if that date exists already. That's the query, but for the condition, we need to check the number of results. So there's a function called, or a method called count all results. So this will return true if this date exists, and if it is true, now we're supposed to do an update. And when we do an update, call the update function, again the table name, and the second parameter is just like the insert query. So it's just like this, but I cannot if I do this update query, it will update everything in the table. We have to have a where clause, so it updates only that specific date, and we have to do this before the update query. Where is going to be just like the one above, because we're going to update that date. So now if I refresh this, there's no error. It said more test. Let's put some more test, and it should update it. Yes, instead of inserting, now it's updating and it's not giving errors. Anyway, we can remove this test code, and our insert method is working. I'm going to empty that table. As you can see, the data is right here, and I can empty it. So let's do something fun and insert the data by using jQuery Ajax. So open the template file, or the view rather, and we need to include jQuery here. Script, source, and I'm going to get the Google link. Ajax libraries. I should have this handy somewhere, but I'm just going to get it real quick. Okay. Alright, this is the jQuery file from the Google's CDN. Now we can start using it. I'm going to add a script tag right after the calendar. So we're going to do some Ajax, but first let's open the document. .ready. I'm going to assume you're already familiar with jQuery. Now, what I want to see is if I can attach a click event on every single cell in this calendar. So I've given all these cells a CSS class, so I can select that CSS class and then assign a click event. And the CSS class was under the calendar day. So the table was the calendar class and the cells were the day class. So I'm going to select children like that. Click event and assign it a function. So for example, I need to know which day was clicked. So I'm going to fetch it by, let me look at the source code and tell you. In the table, every day is enclosed in this div. Daynum is the class of those divs. So I can get the contents of that div within that clicked table cell. So the table cell that was clicked is this, and find within that DOM element the daynum class div and get its contents with the HTML function. So this will retrieve that number, and we can just test it by using an alert right here. Let me refresh, click, nothing happened. Let me double check. Okay, I think in the template, this cell start, I forgot to put the class day right here. This class will go to individual cells, and then there's the div within those cells. Anyway, so the clicked cell will be this, clicked, and it should work now. Refresh, click 17, we got 17, click 19, we got 19, 25. So it's working. So we're able to get the day number that was clicked. We need to get some data input from the user. So we can use the prompt JavaScript function. This will say, for example, let's say enter stuff. And once we do this, refresh, it will prompt something, and you can type, and that will be captured into this variable. And we're going to pass these via Ajax. I also need to check for null, because the user might just click cancel, and we don't want to capture that. So if something is captured, we can just use Ajax jQuery Ajax and start passing. Let me fix this. So it's going to be going to the current URL, window location. That's the current controller's URL in a post, and the data that's going to be sent is an array where, like, let's say we send it as a day and data. So I'm sending them as in an array, or these are the post variables, day and data, and day number is what we captured, day data is also what we captured, and on success also handle the return. And on success, I'm just going to reload the page. Okay, let's see if this is working. Refresh. So click any day, type something, hit OK. It quickly refreshed the page. It's hard to see. It's very quick. Of course, it's not saving the data right now because we didn't handle that part. So we can just go ahead and go to the controller, and right here we can check. We can check to see if there's any posts coming in. Input post, and it was called day, I believe. So if there's a, yes, it's passed as day. If this is here, we can use the model's method named, we named it add calendar data, like that. And this requires two parameters. The first one being the date, and that's not just the day, it's going to be the date. So we need the year, month, and the day. So I'm going to go ahead and save the day right here, and this will be year, month, and day. And the second parameter will be the data that was posted. Now I see a little problem here because these can be null, and I cannot pass that into this function. So let's go ahead and initialize them. If there's no year, let's use the current year, like that. And if there's no month, all right. So this will be the full date and the data passed to this method in our mycal model, and I believe that should do it. We can just test this, refresh. So let's see. On 27th, it's my mom's birthday. Hit OK, and it goes right there. And I can click on another date. Let's put great day. It goes there, and I click an existing field, but I don't see the existing values. Like, for example, I click this great day, and it would be nice if it said great day here, so I can just edit what it's in there instead of going with a blank input. And we can change that easily just by going to this JavaScript piece, and in the prompt there's a second parameter we can pass uh, where we would put the default. So here we can just get it from the current, in the value inside the HTML. We can fetch it by going like this, find, and the class named was on CSS name was content, and this should do it. Refresh. So if I click this, I get great day already in the input. If I click an empty row, it's empty. And if I click this one, I get that. So if great day, I can change this to very great day, and the update will go through and it will save in the calendar and the calendar will load it. And now we can go to another month, and in there I can say finals, and it will just go into that month, go back, go forward. It's working nicely. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned from it, and I will see you next time. Bye.